you can move on to bigger and better presentations, which will not stress you out. There won't be any pressure because you'll have done it, you'll have knocked it out. At least this is the way I look back at it. I did a presentation at a small undergraduate conference a lot like this when I was like 10 years ago, when I was like 21, and it was totally critical in me kind of becoming an academic because I was worried about presenting research I was doing. I was worried my research was still very immature and stuff. And I went and I saw, it's it's not so hard, it's not so bad. It's actually people actually liked it, and it was great. And actually, it's good. I also went to one of these to support friends of mine too who were presenting and give me the old smile and the nod while they're presenting it, and that went well. So definitely do this if you have the slightest interest because it'll pay off, and it definitely looks good on a resume later. So that's a good reason too. Okay. Okay, so go ahead and continue to pass that out if you want, and we'll go ahead and get started. A couple things I want to announce before class. We took the exam. Briefly looking at some of the exams, looks like you all did very well. So those of you who did great on the exam, you kicked ass. You can sort of say, oh my god, I'm on a roll. I'm kicking ass. I'm so motivated to continue to kick ass in this class. Those of you who didn't perform as well as you wanted to, you probably already know, from just taking it, and now you gotta say, okay, well, this was some sort of strange mistake. Something weird happened last week, and now I will resume kicking ass in this class. So regardless of what you did, be motivated, attend class, and continue to kick ass. A second thing, I would like to reiterate my announcement from last week. I can't talk to people before class because I have to set up stuff here, and I don't want to be rude to you when you come up. So if I'm hurt with you, I apologize, but I just can't even talk before class. I can talk to you at the break or after class if you have little things you need to talk to me about. Another thing, we went through the breaching videos. We actually got some breaching videos, about like 15 or so, and these, which means Nora wins the bet on how many breaching videos we were going to get. Congratulations, Nora. Chris and I owe you $5, just so you know. I totally overestimated how many videos we were going to get. But the videos were really fun. They were really cool. We haven't gotten the full report back on paper breaches, which all of you did. We haven't got the full reports back on those. Probably on Tuesday, I'll give you some kind of report on what the funniest ones were that we got, or the most outrageous, or the most blatantly violating my dictum that you do not do anything illegal or immoral, which several did. Thanks a lot for that. And but amongst the video awards, the video breaches, they were very fun. And we have a first annual Sociology 158 award for best video breach, which goes to Nathan Menard. That's you, Nathan. Can you please stand up really quick? Yeah. And Nathan, you receive as an award the first season of the Ali G Show, my own personal copy. Sorry about that. It's not scratched, I promise. I would never scratch that. So congratulations. Nathan's video breach was a stunning work of art and comedy. It even had a cool title, like Bringing Comedy to the Economy. And the whole thing was like set to music and involved him breaching in public spaces, and specifically like invading people's public space in grocery stores, and just sort of generally acting very creepy around various stores in Berkeley. Incredibly amusing, and I really appreciate it. I watched it again last night just for fun. So that was cool. I actually enjoyed it. It was fun. It was actually like entertainment that I continued to watch again and again. Okay, so now I'm getting to be a creepy one, right? So okay, so we've wrapped several parts of the class. We started off with cognitive biases, and can you all be quiet there? You? Thank you. We started off the class with cognitive biases, and we went up to a more social level of analysis to conformity processes, and now we're kind of still going up to obedience to authority. Now, why do I say this is up higher than cognitive biases were or conformity was? Well, cognitive biases are sort of intra-individual processes, right? It's stuff that happens in your head. It has to do with how you perceive other people, but it's also sort of stuff that happens in your head. The phenomena is in your head. Conformity is something that happens between people. It has to do, again, with your mental processes, but it's very much a between people thing. When we run experiments on conformity, multiple people show up at these experiments. Now, next, I say it's a higher level of analysis talking about obedience to authority. Why? Because obedience to authority intrinsically involves an authority giving directives to a subordinate, and so it therefore involves multiple levels of hierarchy crafted in an organization. Okay, so obedience. What is obedience? Obedience is defined as compliance with the directives or orders of an authority. And now those of you you've all taken an exam in here now, and so you know that these little definitions are worth catching. What are examples of obedience to authority? Soldiers taking orders in the army or some other setting. Employees doing whatever their boss tells them to do. Students doing assignments, and so on. You're all of you obeying authority right now. And a big example of research on obedience to authority is Stanley Milgram's obedience experiments. And how many of you have seen the Milgram experiment? Okay, and then you've all seen the replication that we showed a couple weeks ago. And so we're not going to go through the Milgram experiments in that much detail. We're certainly not going to watch the film again because I can get away with just having counted on you already watching it in another class. But one thing I want to know, well, we will talk about it in some detail later in the lecture. One thing I want to note is they're not technically experiments. Why are they not experiments? Because he ran one setup, under a certain set of conditions, and then he looked at what the results were of that setup, and then he said, oh, I'm going to change one of these conditions and run the study again. And I'm going to change one of the conditions and then run the study again, and then so on. And so he ran a series of essentially baking soda volcano type demonstrations. What was he missing? What was he missing that would have made it an experiment? Let's say he'd run all the conditions at the same time. What would have been the big difference between what he did and running them all at the same time? Okay, all right, that was a tough freaking question. Nobody knows. 460 people completely stumped. The big difference would be random assignment to conditions. Random assignment to conditions is something we do in order to randomize away individual differences, so we don't have to worry about individual differences driving our results. Instead, we can be sure that our manipulations drive our results. So if you run a series of conditions across time, you might worry that the people that were in the third study you ran weren't exactly the same as the people that were in the first study you ran, and they're not directly comparable to the results of the study. That's why you run all your conditions at the same time, you randomly assign people to those conditions, and you call it an experiment because it is. Everybody calls the Milgram experiment an experiment. We're going to call it an experiment. Not technically an experiment. Okay. So what's the background on this concept of obedience to authority? Well, obedience to authority is an ancient concern in the history of literature and religion, theology, philosophy in the West. And one of the earliest recountings of obedience to authority comes from the Bible, comes from the Old Testament, the old Bible. And it is the story of Abraham and Isaac. And the story goes basically like this. God commanded Abraham to bind and kill his own son Isaac at the top of like this mountain. Do you know what mountain it was? I know somebody knows this. Come on. I can't hear it, so it's like you didn't even say. Okay, so we don't know. Some people know, but they're too quiet for us to all know. Okay, so God intervened at the last minute. So God says, take your son Isaac, take him to the top of this mountain, bind him, and then kill him as an act of obedience to me. And why are you going to do it? Because I told you to do it. No other reason is given. Then at the last, so Abraham follows. Abraham is obedient to authority, and so he does this. He takes Isaac to the top of the hill, he binds him, and he gets ready to kill him. At the last minute, God intervenes and spares Isaac. And what's the moral of the story? I don't know. It's a hotly debated story. Theologians disagree enormously on what the meaning of the story is. Some people say the meaning of the story is you've got to be obedient to God. If you're obedient to God, in the end, He won't make you do anything that isn't righteous. But you got to trust Him. He works in mysterious ways. He says, kill your son. You got to kill your son. If that's the wrong thing to do, I know. If that's the wrong thing to do, he'll never do it again. He won't make you do it. God's sometimes testing you for your levels of obedience. I don't know exactly what the meaning is. A whole other analysis of the Isaac and Abraham story is points out that, well, usually in the West we think of Isaac in this story as being a child, being very young. That Abraham's taking his very young child, binding him, and then getting ready to kill him. But actually, proper translation shows that Isaac was actually a full-grown adult, was middle-aged. And so really it's a story about both Abraham and Isaac's obedience. Because Isaac was big enough to where he could have easily gotten free and couldn't really be killed by his father. So this portrayal is about right, where Abraham's older and Isaac is young and could have gotten free, and they're both essentially obeying authority. The main takeaway from the story, though, is that Abraham earns his esteem in God's eyes through his faith, worship, and most of all, his obedience. And I think that the Old Testament tale is supposed to be saying something like, you should obey God, even if you don't get it. In the end, it's the right thing to do. Okay, so this is a controversial story, and you probably all have your own private opinions about the Abraham-Isaac fable, or maybe you haven't exactly that way. I don't know much in this fable. Okay, whatever. Obedience has some obvious virtue, no doubt. It allows for social order and avoidance of the state of nature. It allows us to structure organizations. It allows me to tell you to do assignments that I think are in your best interest, and then you go do them. Whereas if your friend did that, you'd be like, why would I do that assignment? There's no reason I'm going to do that. So obedience to authority is a key ingredient for hierarchies and organizations that are often very, very helpful for society to function. The part of how we can run universities, the part of how we can run businesses, the part of how we can run governments, armies. All these organizations may or may not always function to do good, but they all at least sometimes are useful socially. And it allows us, therefore, to maintain social organization and social order and avoid the state of nature, which I'm always telling you is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. And who said that? Thank you. All right, Thomas Hobbes. And did he have an awesome hat or bad hair? No, that's Francis Bacon. He didn't have either. Oh my God, it's like a trick. I just tricked you. Okay, my apologies. He had neither. He had the funny nose. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So obedience to authority helps with the division of labor, maintenance of large organizations, and bureaucracy. Sorry for the trick question. For some people in antiquity, obedience was really the most basic social requirement. It was sort of the first ingredient to make society go. If we didn't have obedience to authority, obedience to our parents' directives, obedience to our elders, we couldn't make society work. And this is before there was high levels of bureaucratization, division of labor, social organization. Everything ran on obedience to parents and elders. So, for example, Plato said, both in war and in the law, you must do whatever your city and your country commands, or else persuaded, in accordance with universal justice, violence is a sin against your country. And then, of course, the Bible says, honor thy father and thy mother. And we'll return in a second to trends in the valuation of obedience to authority across time and culture. Because it's dissipated a bit in the West, which is part of why I have to tell you guys to do things multiple times. Okay. Obedience remains central to Eastern cultural values. People from Asia tend to be higher in the valuation of obedience, and this may be a good thing. It's certainly a subjective, arbitrary cultural difference. There's no way to say who's right and who's wrong, but it is the case that research shows that obedience to authority is a more central value in the East than in the West. An example is filial piety. It's a core Eastern value. Filial piety being like obedience to your parents, which is a very nice thing to have. We don't have that in America. We got rid of that 20 years ago. Okay. No, I totally disagree with that. I think that cross-cultural research done both by Asian and by Western social scientists converges on the finding that obedience to authority and filial piety are more central values in the East. And I can definitely cite you references from both. It's not just a vantage point thing. It's not necessarily right, but converging evidence from multiple cultures confirms this finding. That's what I'm teaching it to do. Okay. So, but perhaps on the decline in the East as well as the West, as documented by researchers in Asia. Okay. So, the main obedience to authority experiment is the Milgram experiment. And here's the basic design. And you've all seen the film of the Milgram experiment. Here's some more details on it. Okay. It was conducted at Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut from 1960 to 1963. Participants were all adult males aged between 20 and 50. Age and occupational background was controlled across conditions. So Milgram made an effort to get like a certain number of manual laborers into each condition in the study and a certain number of white-collar workers into each condition in the study and so on. So what Milgram's trying to do is create a pretty homogeneous group of people, all white males in a certain age range. It's a pretty big age range, but it's not the full possible age range. And then also make sure that they're representative of different class backgrounds, and he's controlling that across the conditions. He isn't using random assignment conditions, which would be a pure experimental approach, but he's making some effort to make a homogeneous group of people that aren't that different, and then make the same group of people across the different versions of the study that he'll then run in serial. Participants were told that they were in a learning experiment with two roles, a learner and a teacher, whose roles were randomly drawn from a hat. Do you all remember this part of the film? In order to figure out who's going to be a learner and a teacher, the subject walks in and they're with an actor, right? And the subject in the experiment, or the experimenter in the experiment comes up and is like, okay, we're going to randomly assign learner versus teacher roles. Now, what do they want? They actually want the subject in the study to always be the teacher, right? Because the teacher's the one that shocks the learner. So how do they do that? Well, they put two names in a hat that supposedly say learner and teacher, and then they hand them out to the actor, the Confederate, and they say, okay, pick one. Confederate picks one, and then they give one to the subject and they pick one. And in actuality, they both say teacher, but the actor says, oh, mine says learner, and the subject always pulls out teacher, and so that way they force a sign, you're the teacher always, and the actor's always the learner, without you realizing if you're the subject that's been forced, that's been a structured situation. Does this make sense? It's a very clever little trick, very clever. Okay. So then they strap the learner, remember, who's an actor, a Confederate, into an electric chair. Very alarming. The subject's watching at this point in the film. It's kind of amusing because the subject's like, oh yeah, sure, you're strapping into an electric chair. Of course. I assumed that would happen when I came today. Yeah. And inside their head, they're like, what the hell is going on? And also like, oh my God, I'm glad I didn't pull the learner slip. And then the teacher is told to read and test the learner on a series of word pairs. And the learner is supposed to remember which word is paired with some other word in the series of word pairs. So the teacher reads a big list and says, blue bunny, like yellow, sickle or something. I don't know why I said that. And then they come back through later and they're like blue. And then the learner's supposed to say bunny, So. Okay. I know, ridiculous. Okay, so the learner gets several answers wrong, and the teacher is told by the experimenter to administer shocks every time the learner gets a question wrong. And as the level of shock increases, so do grunts and shouts of pain. So there's actually a video or an audio tape that's being played from the other room. The actor isn't really grunting and shouting in pain. Instead, they did it one time, it was recorded, and then these shouts of pain are programmed to play after the teacher, the subject in the study, presses the shock buttons. And so they get worse and worse and worse as the level of shock increases. Then at 180 volts, the learner says he can't stand the pain anymore, and he wants to leave the experiment. But the experimenter tells the teacher to keep going, tells the subject in the study to keep going. Then at 300 volts, the learner says he refuses to answer. I'm not participating in this experiment anymore because you're just shocking me and it's pissing me off. And the experimenter orders the teacher to continue nonetheless. And the experimenter says a series of extremely creepy things to the learner, including the experiment requires you to continue, and you have no choice, you must continue. And you remember the guy in the otter shirt in the replication really didn't like that, right? He was like, man, I do have a choice. I do not need to continue. You told me I could leave at any time. So the big question is, how many participants in the study went to the 30th level, the one that was labeled danger, severe shock, triple X? Now, if you look at that, right, if you look at this like electrification machine, right, the shock machine, and it's got these a whole bunch of switches that increase in voltage and go up, and then the last one says 450 volts, danger, severe shock, triple X. Like, what would you assume would happen when you press that button? I would assume that the person would die, right? Wouldn't you assume that? I don't know. That's what I would assume. Or at least there was great risk they could die. So how many people went to that level? How many people were going to press that button that they had good reason to think might kill the person in the other room, a guy that they just met, and that they know from the hat drawing experience could be them. It could be them. It's just a coin flip that made it not them. Well, Milgram was a very fancy man, and so he tried to establish how counterintuitive his findings were. How did he do this? He went and did a survey of 110 psychiatrists, college students, and middle-class adults. I don't know why he picked these people. It seemed the first 110 people he ran into, basically. All of them said that they would personally disobey around 135 volts, right? They said, I wouldn't go that high on that thing. Granted, you tricked me for a little while, but, by 135, no way. And some of them said, I wouldn't do this at all. This is absurd. And then no one said they'd go beyond 300 volts. Oh, okay, wait. Okay, well, anyway, okay. So, yeah, all said they'd stop by 135. No one said they'd go past 300. Okay. And the psychiatrist estimated that only about 1 in 1,000 people, total psychopaths, total sociopaths, would ever go to the triple X level. That's what the psychiatrist said. And they're paid to know about sociopathy, right? So they should know. And so they're saying less than 1%, 1/10 of 1% are going to go all the way. Professor Milgram, you're wasting your time. Milgram delighted in this, ran the experiment anyway. So in condition 1, there's actually no voice. Okay, so I told you about the version of the experiment in the film where there's all this screaming. And what's the rate of compliance in that condition? Do you remember? It's what, 70, you said? Yeah, about 2/3. Okay, and I think we're going to get, I'll give you the exact number in a second. I just didn't write it first. So about 2/3 of people, despite the fact that supposedly 1 in 1,000 people are going to do this, according to psychiatrists who are paid to know, 2/3 of people actually went all the way. And here's some results from some other specific conditions. In condition 1, the very first condition of the study that he ran, there was no voice. There was only pounding on the wall, and then the learner stops answering. So not even as bad as the whole one you watch in the film, the heart condition, and I refuse to participate, and you're hurting me, and the screams. Just pounding on the wall, and then stop answering. 65% of people went the whole way in that one. Condition 2 was the one I described. It was the second one that he ran, and there were these verbal complaints, and eventually he refuses to answer at 300. So yeah, it was about 2/3, 63%. Condition 3, the learner is 1.5 feet away from the teacher. So in this one, the subject is like as close to the person they're electrocuting as I am to Nora now. And in a sense, I am threatening to electrocute them. So 1.5 feet away, what does that do to the rates of obedience? It goes down from 65% or 60%. It goes down from 2/3 to 40%. So 40% of people are still willing to continue pressing the switches until they get to the 450 triple X level. In condition 4, notice Milgram's trying to crank it up, right? He's trying to crank it up to where there's no way that they would actually do it. There's no way that they would do it. There's no way that the teacher would actually continue to, I see your hand, I'll get you this. There's no way that they would actually go all the way. And so he makes an experimental condition where there's just no chance. Where the experimenter, where the teacher, the subject in the study, has to literally press the learner's hand down on what's identified as a shock plate. And then the learner screams and shakes his body, remember he's an actor, and just generally acts, like he's being electrocuted. And just the obvious pain this person is feeling is just right there. It's not even 1.5 feet away. Your hand is on his hand, pressing his hand down on an electroshock plate, which I guess can explain to you that won't electrocute you, I guess, or something. And then, so surely no one will shock anybody in this condition, and definitely no one's going to go the whole way, right? But in fact, still, they followed orders. They still shocked people, and 30% went the whole way to the 450 volt level. Yes? I don't think so. I think they're just right next to each other. So it's that same acting, flailing, I'm being electrocuted. Good. So. In the conditions where the subject, where the learner is in another room, then the voice is recorded. Well, in condition 1, there's no voice, except their answers to the questions. They just go blue, bunny, whatever. But they don't like scream and shout or anything like that. Oh no, actually no, there's literally no voice. Actually, and the answers are relayed through like a light system. So I'm giving you. No one's ever really shocked. Yeah. Oh yeah, to be clear, no one's ever really shocked in this experiment, which means it's ethical, right? Yeah. So okay, but just to be clear, in condition 1, answers are relayed through a light system, and there's no voice, and there's just pounding on the wall. As long as you know that somebody's being bothered by this. Condition 2 is the one that I described in detail, very, very similar to the one in the film, though it's actually not exactly the one in the film. But we won't get into that. The one in the film adds a heart problem on top of that. But this one is the one I described in great detail. It's the second one you ran. Subjects complain, and they're like, please stop freaking shocking me, to yell and scream, and then they stop answering 300 volts, about the same level. Condition 3, in the same room now, so you can hear them. You can see them flailing, and it drops to 40%. Condition 4, you have to press their hand down on a shock plate. You see them flailing. You have to literally touch them and make them do it, make them be electrocuted. There's a question back. Yes. Yes, it's coming. You're quite right. Okay, experiment set a few feet away, just as you predicted. 65%. That's, again, I think that actually is condition 2. Okay, that is condition 2. No, it can't be. Okay, it must be condition 1. But the experiment sits a few feet away. But then, in another condition, the experimenter leaves and then gives instructions back via a telephone. So the experimenter's like, I gotta go. Shock the hell out of that guy. And I'll talk to you on the phone, and or I'll text message you or something like that, we'll I am about it. And so the experimenter leaves, gives the instructions via the telephone, and what are they manipulating here? The distance of authority, right? Like the authority's very far away. There isn't that feeling of immediacy to the commands. There's maybe a little bit of feeling you can disobey and get away with it. And indeed, that's what happened. The subjects were like, many of them lied and said that they were following instructions. They'd be like, no, I'm shocking the hell out of them, just like you told me to. And only 23% of people went all the way. But I would say that's kind of amazing, right? You walk into an experiment, you don't know anybody here from Adam. You might be the guy that's being shocked to death. He's being shocked to death for no good reason. No good reason at all. This crazy psychology experiment about learning and electroshock reinforcement. A totally useless, pointless experiment. And then the experimenter weirdly leaves halfway through, calls you on the phone, and tells you to shock this man to death. And a quarter of the people still do it, right? So if you want to understand how it is that human beings can do awful, awful acts of obedience to authority, this is a great insight, right? This is the crazy